All right, good morning, everybody. This is Coach Reese and Coach Loretta back after a little break, coming at you with Coffee with Coaches. Today, I'm actually drinking a wonderful vanilla orange Waterloo. I'm getting rehydrated, had some nice workouts this morning. Okay, Coach Loretta, we have kind of like an interesting podcast today. It's a little bit out of the ordinary for us. We're just going to go back and forth. We're going to talk about running and biking commuting. And we're not just going to have a discussion, but we have a little game today. So, Loretta, I kind of filled you in earlier just so you know what to expect. But for the listeners, for anybody out there, the weather is getting better outside. It's getting warmer. I know I live close to work. My girlfriend lives close to work. We've been talking about running and biking to like where we work. And it's just a great way to like add a little bit of pizzazz into your life, a little bit of spice into the life. Nothing like getting to work after like having a couple turns over on the legs. But what are the considerations? What do we want to know before we start the journey? What are some tips and tricks so that way you don't arrive to work in a sweaty mess? All of us have, jobs where we might need to wear some nice clothes that you don't want to pit out beforehand. So instead of just talking about this, I came up with this little game. Well, I guess I didn't come up with it. I actually stole it from another popular podcast, but it's super fun. We're not going to mention that right now, though. But, anyways, I came up with 6 titles for some different topics about what you want to consider before you get into your run or bike commute. So, for anybody out there that's wondering, hey, can it be done? How can it be done? This is the podcast for you. So, Loretta, are you ready? Did I explain the game well
But
enough?
I got to preface this. I don't know any of these topics. I've never listened to this podcast, so I have no clue what's going on. So this could be a trip. So hold on.
All right, sweet. So, topic number 1, title number 1. Loretta, are you ready to guess what it could potentially be about?
Sure.
Okay, so here's
We
the
have
title.
like a music like do do do.
We could. We'll put it in post. All right, class. Now, who's done their homework? That's the title. I'll repeat. All right, class. Now, who's done their homework? What do you think it's about?
I'm gonna say this is about mapping your way to the location. Have you looked at your different routes that you're gonna travel?
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so that's a part of it. I like it.
Woo!
First thing about any route or any bike commute is you got to know where you're going. You got to know, like, especially if you're biking, runners know this. Like, you want to know what kind of streets you're running on. You don't want to be going down any county highways when you're in middle of wherever Illinois. It's freaking busy out there. So you want to know, hey, is there a shoulder on the road? Is there a sidewalk on the road? Like, there's a couple logistical things to think about before you even start your commuting journey. Loretta, are you aware that in Illinois, or actually in most states, I think, there's maps that you can look up that are color coded on the road
Oh,
with the type of amenities that they
I did not
have?
know that.
So by amenities, what I mean is, if you go onto Illinois, or if you go onto the DOT website, I don't think it's called the DOT, but if you Google it, everybody will find it out there. You can find these color coded maps, and each color corresponds to like a different item, such as like, does this road have a shoulder? It'll be color coded, like let's say blue. Does it have a sidewalk? It will be color coded red, and it'll be color coded blue if it has both. Things like that. So you can kind of like map out your area and see like, ooh, this is a pretty dangerous road. There's a lot of traffic, but it's got a good size sidewalk, or it's got a good size shoulder. So that's a great way if you're going to be running or biking to work and you want to check out and see if your route is safe. If you don't know the back roads, it's a great way to get like a first glimpse. Another way, drive the route first, right? Just get an idea of what you're going to be up against, especially when you have your backpack on and you have all your gear and all of your important things like your laptop or other work essentials, things like that. Are there any other things that you can think about before you get started for your journey? What else would we think about?
Well, I would want to be thinking about what do I need for nutrition and hydration along my travels, like how far,
Yes, good.
depending on how far it is.
Yep, nutrition, hydration, route, like we talked about, weather. Like what, like, is it gonna not like, is it just sunny out right now? Because right, we're going into summer, but like we're gonna get those afternoon thunderstorms. Right now, I'm gonna be commuting to work after this on my bike. It's not raining out, but if you look at the forecast for when I'm gonna be getting out, it's gonna be raining pretty hard. So of course, maybe I don't want to bike commute today to work. Um, Traffic and daylight is another huge one because we're going to talk about this later, but daylight will tell you if you need lights, if you need tail lights. I do believe it is technically illegal to be on a road on a wheeled like vehicle and not have a white light on the front and then a red light on the back. So if you're going to be driving after or riding after dusk, you want to think about that type of gear as well.
I also think
Um,
maybe you could think about, can I adjust my work schedule to maybe not, get into the traffic if you have any flexibility with your work schedule. Maybe
oh,
a little
totally.
later or a little earlier, to kind of avoid the extra traffic that's at, normal times.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. Especially since everybody has the option to, work remotely now. Maybe you do the
Right.
morning at home and then you do the afternoon at the work office. Bike there on your lunch or whatever. But also, like, I think to myself too, like, along this route, what are the beacons of hope? I call the beacons of hope because it's kind of a broad category for anything that might save you in a pinch, such as, maybe there's some construction going on the road and you notice a porta potty like every single day and it's a couple miles outside of or past, your house where you start from. So maybe you had a big dinner the night beforehand and you didn't have to go before you left, but now you're riding or you're running and you got to go. I like to keep a mental inventories of porta potties, and it's actually one of me and my girlfriend's favorite games is to spot porta potties on the roads and be like, boom, logged it. So that's a nice fun game.
You guys have a
But
really
otherwise,
fun
like gas
life.
stations. What's that?
I said, you guys have a really fun life.
Yeah, we
Buying
try.
porta
Um, Otherwise, gas stations. I've been in the position where I've been like I call it my notorious like thunder bonk, which is when I put my head on my handlebars after a very long commute, about 5-10 miles away from home, and I didn't even have enough energy to think about where the gas station was. So I put my head on my handlebars like this, and I'm like, where the heck am I? Like, where's the next gas station? How do I get some food in me? Things like that. So, any beacons of hope that you would potentially need? Maybe it's a friend's house, just in case you need somebody to come get you. Um, Anything that you can think about like that. You might have to get a little bit crafty. But knowing all of those pieces of information before you even start your commute is just going to ensure your safety. It's going to ensure your protection as well as your comfort on the ride. Okay, so that was title number one. That was a lot. But number two, I think like, once we start the ride, actually, you know what? Let me give the title first. I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the title. Are you ready?
Yep.
To noodle or not to noodle? That is the question.
Hmm.
What could it be about?
Okay, so I'm gonna just go off trail maybe. Does it have anything to do with using some electronics to help guide you on your ride? So for instance, my husband is just getting a new computer so he can know if there's traffic behind him, traffic in front of him, and kind of monitor that while he rides. So it would be thinking a
Hmm.
lot, I guess.
I could see that. I could see that. No, it's a good guess
Oh,
though. Really good
man.
guess. Okay, so this title comes from what a lot of cyclists call noodling, which is when you're just kind of like not giving a hard effort. You're just kind of pedaling, you're free pedaling, you're not expending a lot of energy. So the question is, do we ride hard or do we ride easy? Um, and I think that's important to think about before you go to work, just depending on what your job title is.
Right.
Um, I work with patients all day long. I do not want to get to the clinic super sweaty and super gross. So in that case, I'm not going to try to PR my work commute by any means. Um, and if we're going to do that, I'm going to think to myself, okay, how fast do I usually travel on my bike? And then give myself like an extra like 5 to 10 minutes to sit in traffic lights or, just because I'm not riding as hard because I'd rather be like a little bit early, actually a lot early to work, as opposed to like thinking I'm right on the wire. Cause then I'm gonna want to pedal harder and then I'm gonna get sweatier and then I'm gonna get more anxious and then I'm gonna hit a stoplight and I'm gonna want to go harder. So when I'm going to work, I'm always like, that is the time when you just soak in the day. You just have a good time. And you don't necessarily think about like trying to like beat the buzzer. So give yourself some extra time, noodle it all you want on the way to work. Don't push the pedals hard. Especially if you got gear on you too. Like it's so easy for like a cyclist or a runner's back to get super sweaty when you're out there. Like your chest might be all dry, but your back might be collecting a bunch of gunk. Um, but then say if you're using the commute like as a workout, like get your workout in, but do it at the end of the day when you're going home.
Right.
So that way you can jump in the shower before anybody else gets a chance to smell you. Um, So that's where that comes from. I've had a couple encounters where it's like, or a couple experiences where it's like, oh man, I just got to work. I've got 5 minutes to actually get on the floor, and I'm what? Like, what
Yeah.
the heck do I do?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. I don't want to scare anybody away from the clinic that I work at. I'm clean. I smell good. I promise. But don't let that be you.
So noodling is it.
Yep. So noodle as much as you want on the way to work. Yeah. So, okay. So the next one is more of a broad category. The title is called Suited and Booted. What could it be about?
Well, I'm gonna say it's about putting your work clothes in your backpack to change into when you get to work.
That is fantastic. That is exactly what it's about.
Nailed it.
I think I went too easy on these titles, Loretta. I think I got to be a little bit more creative here.
I'm just super
Um, what kind of gear would you take, or like what would be important to you, like if you were commuting?
Okay, so I would want to, because I know even if I'm going easy, I'm probably going to be sweating and my back is going to get all wet. So I'd probably want to put it in like a Ziploc or something to keep it dry because if I just put it in my backpack, it'd be soaked. I would definitely want some deodorant and I would probably pick things that were really easy for me to switch over to, especially if I was a little bit sticky. So, this is a girl thing, but if I had a sports bra on when I was riding, when I go there, I might not want a sports bra because I might not be able to I might get stuck in it trying to put it on because I might be a little bit sticky still. So that's
That's
what I'm
fantastic.
thinking.
There's some other things that I like to think about too. And like you got to keep all of your like work items on you, like your laptop. But like if you're gonna be like expending a little energy, like going someplace, like make sure you have some extra snacks packed on you too. Like get yourself like, like pack all of your dressing equipment, pack any essentials that you might need for like your day-to-day work, like conditions. Um, but also pack like always have spare clothes. Like even if you have your bike clothes, you have your work clothes, just have like a couple extra pieces of garment that you're like, yeah, maybe I could keep this where I work and like just use it like just in case. You know what I mean? Like maybe you get yourself too sweaty, or maybe you forget like your work t-shirt or something like that. Maybe you got to wear a button down. Just have something like just in case, right? Because like for me personally, I don't like to draw too much attention to myself when I like bike to the clinic or when I bike. Like I don't want that to ever be a crutch of like, oh, sorry, forgot my t-shirt because I bike to work and now I'd have to bike home in order to go get it. So like I'm gonna be out for a couple hours. So I'd rather have a couple more things like on me than not. Deodorant, love it. It's a great way to not get smelly. Any colognes would be great. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but maybe you should pack some like some cleaning equipment too. Maybe some like soaps or conditioners. Like, do you
Dude
have?
white.
Yeah, dude wipes. That'd be fantastic. Pack your lunch. Make sure that you have your phone and your wallet and your keys. I know, like, if I'm out of routine, like, it's so easy for me to forget my keys. Long story short, a couple weeks ago, I got locked out of the house because I went to do a private track lesson with somebody. And it's so out of my routine to just walk out of the house and like go to the track because, like, either my girlfriend's home or like I take my keys or something like that. Like I know if I leave the house for a morning run at 4:30 in the morning, like, oh, put my key on me so I can lock up on the way out and so I can unlock on the way in. But I just totally forgot to even grab my keys. I was like, oh, I got to get to the track. I got to go. I got to put my shoes on, put my backpack on, like get to the track. I'm gone. Well, she ended up leaving, going to a massage. And I got home and I was like, oh, I don't have my keys. So like it's so easy when we're not like in our routine, or if it's your first time commuting, to like forget your keys, especially if somebody else is typically home and you don't normally lock the door on your way out. Maybe you don't need keys going into work, but like, if you're not like if you don't have that habit of like, oh, I grab my keys and then I get into my car because you're packing all this other stuff, right? It's new to you.
Right.
You don't know exactly what you need, what you don't.
Yeah.
Make sure you have your wallet, your phone, your keys, everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, I think you need to remember your glasses because, if I'm going to be riding a bike or running, I'm probably going to start out with my sunglasses and I don't want to get to work and not have glasses. So that would be huge.
mhm.
Then also think about you're going to have helmet head. So you might want to figure out a plan for your hair when you get there. I mean, Reese, you don't have to worry about that. But either we're going to shave
Maintenance free.
down or we're going to figure out what we're going to do with our hair when we get there because mine's going to be a hot mess.
Oh, that's a good idea, Loretta. Okay, so what would you do? Like, what are things that you would consider if you had to do your hair in a pinch? Like, what are some essentials?
So I would probably maybe bring something to style it a little bit. Maybe some barrettes to just kind of flip it back so I can make myself look somewhat presentable for the day. So yeah.
Mhm.
Because I mean,
Awesome.
unless you can wear a hat, if you can wear a hat at work, great. Bring an extra hat and slap it on. But a lot of office places, you probably aren't wearing hats. So
What if so like is it so if somebody were to like wash their hair, like take a shower, like do you think
Mhm.
it's feasible for people to like keep like a hair dryer
Oh,
at
for
work? Is
sure.
that like an option?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if
Is
there's
that
a shower
simple?
available, that's definitely what I would try to do. Just to get my hair washed out because it's probably going to be a little bit wet when I get there. So that could be an option too.
Awesome. I like it. Um, topic number 4 is um, you can smell like ass, just not during class.
So I think we're kind of covering it a little bit. I think when you get to work, you need to figure out a way so you're not smelling and people know that you rode to work.
Love it. Yep, that's the one. I'm very lucky in that like we have like very private bathrooms at the clinic where it's single player, right? So like I can get in, I can lock the door, like, I can do my thing, I can like wash up. Um, especially on like my workouts at lunch. Um, we don't have showers, but the sink is a great place to still wash off. You can grab some paper towels, or you could bring like dude wipes, or you could bring like a washcloth, and just kind of like just give yourself a like quick once over, so you're not sticky for the rest of the day. Um, sink showers are still showers. They can still get you very clean and they don't take that long. And I think that like especially with busy people as we try to fit working out into our daily lives, I think like commuting is a great way to do that because you're going to spend time in a car anyways. I used to work at a job that was either a 25-minute car ride or like a 30-minute bike, just depending on traffic. It was about the same. It's like, oh, well, I might as well make it fun. But that's still no excuse to be in a working environment and just like smelling the place up.
Right, right. So we often
Um,
on runs and post run we'll go somewhere to eat lunch or something. Our group will. So we always pack extra stuff, and we usually change in our cars, and we're very um clever about being able to switch out of clothes and not be seen, while we're sitting in the car. But having a towel is nice too because my hair is usually pretty wet. So to be able to just kind of rub it dry a little bit so it's not dripping when we go into the place that we're going to go out to as well. So that can be a trick. And you can also get like if there's not a place really that you can change at work, you can get those giant towels that you can change underneath so people can't see that you're changing, but it's covering everything on you, and you can do that in your car. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you can do it.
Yeah, it works, right? I think that's the
Right.
name of the game, like, when it comes to this, is it's like, you know what? It might not be pretty, but it works.
Right.
Like, I have a hanger at the clinic too, so for, like, my workout clothes after, like, I'm done working out, like, we have, like, our own lockers that we have in the back, so what I'll do is since I have my hanger there, any clothes that are a little bit damp, like, a little bit wet, like, whatever it is, like, I hang them up so that way they're not, like, on anything else and they can dry out. Now, I'm not necessarily always rewearing those clothes depending on how sweaty I get. But like if you can dry out before you then have to take it home, then you don't have to put wet clothes in your backpack. You don't have to bike back home with wet clothes. You don't have to be super like stringent on putting everything in like a waterproof like Ziploc or whatever it is. So it's like, well, if you go out on your lunch and it's a warm day anyways, like chances are like that stuff will just kind of like air out like in your locker or whatever it is, like, before the end of the day. If you got to find like a discreet place at your place of work to maybe hang them up like that too, so that way they're not in anybody else's way and nobody else has to deal with them. I think that's another good idea.
Right.
Um,
But if you can't, then you might have to resort to a Ziploc and seal it so everybody doesn't smell your wet, stinky clothes all day that are sitting there.
yeah, for sure. You don't want to like leave this stuff in the office, like break room. You don't
Right.
want it next to the coffee machine. Nobody wants to be smelling that while they're trying to grab their cup of Joe. I think too, like, a lot of cyclists don't always double up under their shorts. It's kind of like a cycling like taboo of sorts. where it's like you have like your bibs or you have your shorts on, and like that's what you have. You don't have underpants on. But I think in the case of commuting, it just makes everything a lot better too if you can go through and then change into something dry when you get out. So and especially then when you go to ride back home, things aren't gross, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Okay, so this next one are just tips, just tips,
Okay.
just the tip segment. It's little things that make the commute a heck of a lot easier. Um, One of them, I like to think, let's say, like, I don't necessarily work like an office job, right? Like, I'm not wearing a suit and tie to work. I don't need pressed clothes. I don't need pleated pants, right? Like, I have a very athletically minded job. But let's say you need to keep your shirt clean, you put it in a backpack, it's going to get all wrinkled. Like if you're traveling with a book or if you're traveling with a laptop, you can sandwich that Ziploc bag with your clothes all folded, all nice and neat, and just give them a little bit of support while you're biking. So that way they're not getting all weird. Same thing with your pants and things like that. Um, for cyclists, I'm absolutely terrible with this too, but you always want to pack like a fix a flat kind of spare kit. And you can see these like cradled underneath people's seats. If you're ever like, oh, what's that thing that's like underneath their seat? Chances are it's a fix a flat kit. It contains like two CO2 cartridges, a little bit of like an inner tube. So that way you can fix your flat on the road. And when you have to fix your flat is not the first time that you want to ever practice fixing a flat. Like no matter how many times you watch a YouTube video, like it's not going to be easy the first time and you're going to have to learn with your own hands. So for everybody out there, it's springtime. If you have a bike and if you plan on riding it, even if your tires aren't popped, go buy some new inner tubes from your local bike store. Go try to change them out yourself. That way you're in like a non-pressured environment so you can actually learn how to do things. You don't want to be like flattened out on the side of the road halfway to work, but still too far away from home to really go back and get your car and have that be the first time that you're watching a YouTube video trying to figure out what the heck to do. That is a terrible situation. Don't ever put yourself in that situation, but have a kit and know how to use it. Loretta, I know you just got into a bunch of biking. Have you ever had any experiences with flats?
Not myself personally, but my husband has. So
Hmm.
I left him on the trail and kept going.
Really? Okay, tell us
Yeah.
that story. Elaborate a little bit more. What happened to him? What was going on?
So he was having trouble. I was trying to get in a ride, and we were like, okay, we stopped on our trail. There's a place where you're supposed to be able to blow up tires by the fire department. Only the machine wasn't working correctly. So the fireman was going to help him. And so he's like, you go ahead and finish your ride, come back and get me. And then, so that's what I did. I didn't just do it. I didn't just leave him. I'm not that heartless, but I did get in my ride, came back, and then ended up picking him up. I think he ended up going to the gas station across the way to get something to be able to make it work because whatever he had on him failed. So maybe bringing a backup of those little containers, or I can't remember what it was that was a problem, but yeah. So,
That's amazing.
and we have like safety people on the trail that are watching our trail with little safety shirts. We asked them for help. They couldn't help with fixing that.
Yeah, and like it surprises me and blows my mind how many people don't know how to fix a tire flat. It's really not that hard. I mean, there's a couple like tricks and tips that just like with everything, right? Like you want to do it like once or twice, get your hands dirty, figure it out before you're in a pressured situation. But more often than not, like it's just like, fixing a flat on your car or something like that. It's one of those things that like everybody laughs at other people not being able to do, but you laugh at somebody else not being able to do it, even though you also don't know how to do it yourself. It's like, what is
Right.
going on? Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so the only time it's ever happened to me, I've gotten two flats in my life. The first time was just on the weekend. I could call somebody, they pick me up. I had to wait a little bit on the side of the road with my head hung low because I didn't have my spare kits. I should have learned my lesson then, but I didn't. So I had to relearn that experience this past summer. Actually, it was about the fall time. So I went, it was must have been like a Tuesday or a Thursday. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for a quick like hour and a half. I'm going to go around the Barrington Hills. I was like, I just replaced one of the tires. I think it was the back tire or something like that. I was like, that was the tire that was giving me problems. I just replaced that. I should be fine. What are the chances? What are the odds? Well, on Thursdays, I go into the clinic at 1. I started at like 10 in the morning. So by like 11:30, like all of a sudden,
Oh, no.
like, oh crap. And I was like just over halfway through my ride, like still about like 6.5 miles away from, like where we live, which for runners, like that's fine. 6.5 miles, like, okay, give me an hour. Like I'm clipping like nice and easy. It's not so easy to do when you have a bike on your shoulder and you're wearing those cleats. It's hard to freaking walk in those cleats. So like I'm sitting there, I'm like, my head's low like this, like, what the heck do I do? I was like, I just need somebody to talk to right now. So like I texted my girlfriend. I was like, hey, I got a flat. This sucks. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'll come out of work. Like, I'll come get you. And I was like, no, please don't. I just needed to vent to somebody. Like, it's all good. And she had like literally just gotten to work. And I was like, please don't make my problems your problems. And she was like, no, but I'm gonna come to work, like, or I'm gonna come get you. I'm gonna leave work. It'll be okay. And I'm like, I know, but like, I don't want to be like that dead weight that's just like dragging you down, like slowing the works up. So like, I'm saying that as I got my bike on my shoulder like this, and I'm trying to download Uber because I don't have Uber set up on my phone. I don't live in the city. I've never lived in a city. I've never had to use Uber before. I have friends. I don't need Uber.
And can Uber
So I'm
take your
trying to put
bike?
it. What's that?
Can Uber even take your bike?
I don't even know, but I was gonna try it. So as I was walking down like this, I have my bike. I'm like trying to Uber. I'm like, how the hell do I even set this thing up? I don't have my wallet on me. I don't have my money on me, which is also another tip. Have some cash, have some Apple Pay, have some sort of credit card. Like, don't go out with nothing because you might be the nicest person in the world, but like people don't want your generosity. People don't want your like smiles and your good looks. People want compensation if they're gonna help you, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to do all this, and all of a sudden this car pulls out of a driveway and is like, "Hey, you need a lift?" And this is just after I got off of the phone with my girlfriend. I told her, I was like, "No, don't come get me. I'm walking home. It's my problem. If I'm late to work, I'll let people know. Like, if I have to walk the 6.5 miles in cleats, I'll do it." I was ready to take off my shoes and just walk barefoot because it was easier than walking in cleats. And I was like, "Yes, there's this man in front of me." So he's got this big SUV. I was like, "Yeah, man, where are you going?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm going down over by such and such dentist." And I was like, "Okay, cool. That's like a mile away from my house." So I was like, "I don't want to bother." He goes, "No bother. I've been in that situation too." So I was like, "Okay, this dude gets me. He knows I'm not just stupid." So I go and I put my bike in his car. And at this point, like I hadn't been talking to my girlfriend and she was just texting me. And I was like, "Hey, got a ride. Don't worry about me. Don't leave work." She texts me back, "You're lying." While I'm in the passenger seat to this guy's car and I'm getting a lift and we're talking about like cool things. He used to race bikes like back in the day. He was asking me about things they got coming up. Like we're having a great time. So I FaceTimed her. I was like, "Hey Rick, do you want to FaceTime my girlfriend?" And so I pulled up Deanna on my phone and I was like, "Hey, I'm in a car right now." She goes, "Whose car is that?" I was like, "Rick over here. He's giving me a lift." And she goes, "Oh, hi." And she was like in the middle of like, "Come on, like I'm gonna get you. Like, don't do this. Like, you're not a hero." And so I ended up getting dropped off like about a mile away from where I live. Took my shoes off, walked the mile back home. Just barely made it to work with the skin of my teeth, and got back there. And like after you've had like a stressful or in unplanned circumstance, you get to work and you're just like, "Oh my God, I'm just glad to be here." And you're just kind of like mentally fried a little bit because of the stress of having to problem solve and not knowing if you were going to make it on time or if you'd have to call people and figure out like plan Bs. But if I would have just had that spare kit, if I would have just like been like, you know what, today could be the day that I had the flat, I would have been able to save myself. I know how to use a spare kit. I can do that in the blink of an eye. It would have saved me so much hassle. So don't let that be you, and don't let that get in the way of your work. Don't let that make you late to work. You don't want to, show up to work and represent your company as somebody who's late, who smells like ass, and still needs to go to the bathroom and change, and then hang up their dirty clothes in the break room next to the coffee pot. You don't want to be that guy.
So moral
So,
of the story, don't be Reese. Carry
yeah.
a
So
flat kit.
learn from these mistakes. You can hear how excited I am about trying to make sure that you guys don't make these commuting mistakes that I made. And I'm still learning them. This was less than a year ago. I need to get it into my head. So I'm really talking to myself here. Thanks for helping out, Loretta. Uh,
Don't be
so those
Reese.
are those are all like the major tips that I have. Besides, of course, the most important one, um, which is keep your nut butter close and your friends closer. Good friends can take you out of a bind, can get you out of a bind, can help you out in tricky situations, and would love to do it for you. Just know that if you call up a favor, you're going to have to return that favor somewhere down the road, or at least buy them dinner, buy them something, show your appreciation to your friends. Always have a plan B. Always have escape route. Um, keep your friends close because they'll be able to help you in a tricky bind. Know who your network is.
Right. And be careful taking a ride from someone. It could be a serial killer.
Oh,
Very
for sure. He was like 70 years old. I was kind of like checking around his car before I got in. I was like, I Googled
uh-huh.
the dentist that he mentioned, like while we were putting my bike in the back of his
To make
car.
sure it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, know
I
your
mean,
escape
because
route.
next thing
And
you know, this is going to be a crime podcast instead of a running podcast.
exactly. And like treat your coworkers nice too. Maybe you get a flat or something like that, or you get stranded like a mile or two away from work and you don't want to call somebody from 10 miles behind you. It's just easier to have one of your friends come and pick you up. Whenever I go out for my lunch time bike rides at the clinic, I always talk with one of my coworkers and ask her, hey, like, are you going to be around? Are you going to be here at lunch? Are you going to be like, okay, because I'm going to go biking, like just in case I get to get pretty far out, like I get a flat and it's too late for me to fix. Like, are you gonna be available? Like, can you keep your phone on you? And she's always like, oh yeah, like totally. Like, I'm gonna try as hard as I can not to put myself in that situation, not to roll over anything weird or like go on like streets that are being ripped up or teared apart or whatever. But at the same time, always have some sort of plan B in the works and be nice to your coworkers so they're likely to help you with that plan B.
Right.
Okay. So that's what I got. Thanks for playing, thanks for being a good sport with some of those titles. I think the moral of the podcast, besides everything that we talked about, is definitely going to be that next time we do this, like I need to come up with some better titles for sure.
Because we learned today that Coach Loretta is pretty smart.
Yeah, of course. Nothing gets past you. So I don't know. Has this made you want to try to like throw a little bit more bike commuting into your program, or because I think it's a great way to just add a little extra like fun into your daily training logs.
Right. If I work from home, so that's not a thing for me, but I do
Mhm.
think it's a cool idea. I would love to be within a distance to work, ride to work. I think that's really cool. And I mean, I think we need to mention like Dean Karnazes, he got rid of his vehicles and that's how he goes everywhere. He lives in the Bay Area and he rides to, bikes to meetings or whatever he has to do. So I mean, some people have even gotten rid of their vehicles just to be able to do that, which is, I think it's cool.
Oh, totally, yeah. And I think too that like when I first started working at the clinic that I worked at, like nobody knows like what it's not like I like interview like my name's Reese, I'm an ultra runner.
Right.
It's like you get into the clinic and then people are like, oh, you like to go on runs at lunch, huh? Oh, you're going on a run at lunch again today, huh? And like over the weeks, they're like, damn, you go on a lot of runs at lunch, huh? And
Right.
then all of a sudden I bike into work and they're like, okay, so you're biking to work and you're gonna go for a run on lunch. Okay, so then it starts to kind of become your brand, right? And then once
Right.
people know to expect it, then it's a little bit easier. But if it's your first time going like doing that at work, maybe just let your coworkers know too, like, hey, like I'm gonna be doing this.
Right. Right.
But also like make sure that you're in clothes that you know you don't mind your coworkers seeing you in.
Right. True.
Like
True.
maybe if you're going to be running to work on a Monday, like that's not the day to bust out your shortest shorts. Like nobody at the office wants to. It's fine on the trails because we all get you, but your coworkers might not. They don't want to see the thighs. Like maybe you wear something a little bit longer. Maybe it's kind of hard to hide bike tights, but maybe you just kind of usher yourself right to the bathroom right away. You don't hang around in your biking gear like a superhero. Um, so there's a little encore tip. Um, but yeah, but like Dean Karnazes, that's like his brand image, right? Like nobody wants to see Dean like roll up in like a Toyota Camry.
Right.
People want to see Dean Karnazes like run his way into a meeting,
Right.
or bike his way in. But I
Yep.
don't see why we all can't do it. We all can't make it a part of our like routine. Like I'm very fortunate. I live about a mile away from work, but I mean, to even go like 10 to 15 miles,
Right.
like we're talking about like, could be 45 minutes to an hour and a half, which sounds like a lot of time, but that same 15 miles might take you 30 minutes anyways. So you're
Right.
kind of saving time when you think about it. I
Right.
think it's
Well,
a
and I
great way
think,
to put in some
yeah.
cross training.
Yeah, and I also think it's a great way to, I mean, I am a believer in trying to use your daily routine to make things habit. And what a great way to get in some extra exercise, or maybe that is your exercise for the day. It's just built right into your daily routine of, okay, I'm driving to work. Instead of driving to work, I'm riding my bike to work. I'm riding my bike home. I'm going to get my exercise in those, parts of the day, which I think are good. I think it's really good if you have a less active job than you, like an office job where you're sitting all day. Now that's giving you extra movement that you might not have had if you rode in your car every day back and forth to work. So if you can take advantage of it, I think it's great. My daughter and her boyfriend are in Boulder, and they have jobs that are a few miles away from where their new places, and that's their plan, is to be able to bike back and forth to work.
Yeah, and do you wanna bring up too that athlete that you're working with who's training, for a
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
long race?
Yeah, so I have an
Okay,
athlete
so
that's
what's your
training
story?
for I think it's a 350-mile race. I gotta have to look off the top of my head, but it's the Crusher, and she is now riding back and forth to work to get in extra miles to up her mileage to be able to get it all in. She's a multi-sport athlete, so she's mountain biking, she's kayaking, she's running, she's doing strength training and mobility, trying to build everything into her plan, as well as having a new job of a CEO of a business. It's like, okay, how do you get all that in, right? So now she's taking advantage of doing some riding and to work. So yep,
Yep.
a great way to get it.
CEOs can do it,
Golf
so
it.
can
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so can we.
Yep.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
who knows? Chances are, maybe your CEO does it and you just don't even know it. Maybe you could,
True.
form a group ride going into the
That's right.
office.
Yep. You might make some friends once you start bringing your bike, people that you didn't
Or
know who rode.
or at least start some conversation and, like, inspire other
I was
people
gonna say,
to
yeah.
want to get on their bike, maybe not biking to work, but maybe just around their house. It's funny as my girlfriend and I, like, get back into running with childhood friends around the neighborhood here. How many people are like, "Oh my gosh, you guys make me want to get back into it," and it's like,
Yep.
awesome, cool. So like everything that you do could be an inspiration to somebody else. So like live your passion and get out there and rep it and go do it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the fun, off the beaten path type of podcast today. That was wonderful. To everybody else, enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy your run, enjoy your bike, try some commuting in your life. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.